Hello and welcome back to From the BON, the Burnley podcast. And as you can tell, we're all laughing and smiling because Burnley are facing a 7th straight defeat against Fulham on Saturday, unless they can change things around and do things a little bit differently and get that result, break that run of form. We're not going to be any doom and gloom around here. We're determined to keep our chins up through this difficult time. But Chris, it is a game, really, that, we've argued so many times about that pointless phrase, must win. But for Scott Parker, and I know generally speaking, this has been a supportive environment on this podcast for Scott Parker, hasn't it? Not everywhere has amongst Burnley fans. But you just feel if this one goes wrong, things might turn a little bit against him, no?
I wouldn't be surprised. I remember walking off the Palace game, and it was almost like a couple of years ago where there's that sort of apathy and realizations, settling in that we're not quite good enough, sort of thing. And that was a night where in the cold light of day, JBL on another night, his shot goes in. It's a wonder save from Henderson. And other bits and pieces, you maybe get a point. It's don't switch off before half time and concede the same goal for the third successive game, etc. But this is one of those games where I think if we're walking off at whatever time, about 7:20 on Saturday night, if they have lost and have gone down with a bit of a whimper sort of thing, I can see the crowd maybe starting to turn a little, and you can see it's quite a vocal. Social media is a funny world. You can think it's the real world, and most of the time it's no. It's not like holding up a mirror to real life. But there is a real sense on social media. There's quite a bit of anger there, and I wouldn't be surprised if that spills over into the stands, shall we say, on Saturday night, if Burnley don't show up.
Do you have that feeling, Daz, as well? You commented about how the way the fans flooded out of the ground early, after the last home defeat. Do you feel that, if this one goes wrong, that he's very, very vulnerable position, Parker?
Well, without a doubt. But, we started out by being optimistic for about 20 seconds, Sam. Your first question was, if he loves this game, he's got to go. You can't sustain constant defeats. There's an old story, an old tale of Sean Dyche, where he used to say that, if you keep losing matches, eventually the odds turn in your favour. I'm not a true believer in that. There's a bit of blind faith involved in that, I think, a little bit. But there must come a time when that dressing room sits and looks each other in the eye and says, fuck's sake, if it's now, if it's never, it's now, whatever the saying is. If it's not now, it's never. You know what I mean? So they're going to have to put a performance in, a 90-minute performance. We've seen that so few times this season. They're going to have to put a 90 performance in. And if they do that against a fragile Fulham side, it could just turn the tide. And it might just take one win. But they've got to get that win from somewhere. A draw, I don't think, is enough on Saturday now. I think, they're starting to get cut adrift a little bit. They need that 3 points, just from a belief system point of view. So, but surely this week, of all weeks, after so many defeats in a row, they sat there in the dressing room and they're going, we're in this together. It's us. And they might not be good enough. As Parker said, they might not be good enough, but they've got to go down fighting. They can't just go down with a whimper and giving away stupid goals, which they keep doing. They've got to be locked in for 90 minutes. And if they do that, who knows?
15th in the league, Woody. They haven't won at Turf Moor since 1951, as you kindly pointed out in our chat before we came on.
You're welcome.
Because that was a date that eluded us during our previous discussion, but as we were right, we were certainly right. It was half a century ago at least. Looking at that, Daz is right, isn't he, in the sense that, we've had a lot of games where we said, decent second half. Chris was saying we won the second half at Newcastle. We had other games where we've played well for the first half and then sat off and had little spells. That 20 minutes at best we've played this season. There's so many games. There's hardly been a game where we haven't had something like that to cling to, have we? But this is one where we've got to do it, haven't we?
Yeah, we've got to manage the game properly. We've got to make those 20 minutes turn into kind of 30 minutes. We've got to make chances count. And if kind of Newcastle is a portent of things to come, and especially the past couple of games as well, the slight change in formation, it looks a little bit like Parker's going onto the front foot a little bit rather than, battening down the hatches. So maybe this comes to fruition against a side, like Daz says, it's bloody fragile. That 5-4 thing against Man City was ridiculous. So it could be a silly game. It could be a silly game. So 0-0 incoming.
Chris, I mean, Fulham's record at Burnley, we've mentioned that 1951, but over the years they really have struggled against us, haven't they?
Well, it's not just. I mean, they've not just struggled. Like they've come here when they've been like the dominant team in whichever league we've been in, and not done well. People might remember, let's say Keegan and Ray Wilkins' team in the second division when they just come into a few quid in the sort of late 90s, early noughties, and we sent them packing then. Tigana's Fulham, who were as good a championship side as there has been in living memory. We sent them with the tails between the legs as well. We went down there and got a draw in the FA Cup. I remember one time and beat them 3-0 at Turf under lights in January weather when it's a bit cold and a bit wet. And people might remember Drissa Diallo. Remember his just. They've a rotten record. They've taken the lead at Turf Moor in Premier League games and not gone on to hold on to it. Like the last time out when we were trailing with time running out, and Fofana popped up with a late equaliser, didn't he? So it's worth mentioning that because I'm sure it preys on certain fans of a certain vintage's minds, and Fulham fans will be coming here knowing full well that they've not seen their team get anything usually at Burnley.
You have to mention that as well in your press conference. I know that Parker, I think, mentioned it today in his press conference, and you have to do that. There's managers I've worked with where you fed them lines about forms of you get that out there in the public domain because it seeps into the consciousness, not only of their players, because they then start having a bit of doubts, but in your own players that you think, we can beat this lot. We're great against this lot. So you've got to play mind games sometimes. So if he has mentioned his press today, which I believe he has, then all credit.
Yeah, no, they haven't had a fantastic record at all, have they? What comes to mind when you think of Fulham, Woody?
Well, besides Craven
that statue,
isn't it?
That statue they used to tell Michael Jackson, that's what comes to mind.
Has that gone?
He tucked it behind the stand, didn't they? Well,
it went to the National Football Museum at Manchester for a period. I remember taking my little ones who, for some reason, like Michael Jackson, and I was just like, what on earth is that doing here? Can't explain it to you boys.
Yeah, it's done now. They built that stand, didn't they? They built the Riverside stand, and it went before that.
He was either at Fulham or at Exeter with the spoon bender Uri Geller, weren't he?
Yeah, bless him. I don't know. They always remind me a bit of a poor man's literal cottage Tottenham. You know what I mean? They've always played nice-ish football, haven't they? Fulham. But never felt like, the kind of side that'll get stuck in and get overly physical. So, and I'm a great believer in the football gods.
They like a maverick there, don't they? When you go you Rodney Marshes and people like that. And...
Exactly.
No one hates them, do they? Nobody hates Fulham.
No.
Does anybody actually hate them? Have they got a rival?
Good point, that.
Well, Chelsea's the derby, isn't it?
But Chelsea probably don't even consider Fulham to be a rival, do they?
Well, I mean, Chelsea have only been a big side in the last 30 years, haven't they? So
You're just a nice team. Everyone likes Fulham, don't they?
It's a nice place to go, isn't it? Nice part of the world. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few missing, isn't there, Chris? I mean, Twanzebe's injured still, but we've got suspended now. Hannibal, who's out, suspended. Perez, obviously, suspended. And Kyle Walker, as well, will miss this game. So there's a bit of shuffling of the deck to do there, isn't there?
Just a bit, yeah. There's a few sort of major decisions Scott Parker's got to make. But again, I've sung Kyle Walker's praises all season. I think he leads by example. But the last couple of games he's been below par. I would say. So will he benefit from a rest? Probably. And you've got on the other side though, it's the interesting one that Perez does ever so well and gets sent off. Interesting to see that, is it Malik Chow didn't get sent off for Newcastle for a similar situation in Leverkusen last night.
You do watch a lot of football, Chris. I'll give you that.
But
my days of watching Newcastle and Leverkusen.
But Parker, rather than bring Hartman back in, he decides to leave. He plays JBL as a left wing back and throws Joe Worrell out of nowhere into the fray. And I thought Worrell did well. I thought Ekdal did all right on his return. Swansea, and again, has he been noticeably better than the other centre halves available?
No,
I think he's up there, among his competitors, to be honest. But I don't think he's a loss per se. So does he go with the three centre halves and maybe play, let's say, Brun Larson one side and whether he plays Chowner on the other side, or I'd say, I don't know. Son seems to have gone missing, doesn't he? You get these players who are in around the squad for a period of time and then they go missing, and nobody knows if he's injured or just out of the picture at the moment. So yeah, he's got a decision to make there in terms of his system, in terms of his personnel. Hartman had been poor defensively poor for a period of time, but I thought that was a straightforward like for like. He comes back on the pitch sort of thing at Newcastle when Perez gets sent off, and you sacrifice Foster. But I say Broja started. Will he play three centre halves if he wants to keep Foster in the team? I don't think so, because I think he'll want to build on Broja's performance as the focal point. So that probably influences his decision a little as well. But a lot of us want to see little Marcus Edwards get a kick because he is our most creative player.
You've gone through all agenda there in one go. Bloody hell, that's it. Oh.
Time to wrap up.
Woody's might dictate it. Chris, Woody's might dictate it, but if he can go five at the back. I know it's two wing backs and it's not five at the back. But just again, the signal it sends out a little bit is get creative, attack-minded players on the pitch, because we need to.
But if he hasn't got Son, but I don't know if Son's available or not.
There's been I don't think there's been any suggestion he's injured, is there?
No. But would you drop him straight back in out of cold sort of thing?
I would.
Yeah.
And the absence of Conor Roberts, I would. And go forward at the back and just get somebody in a more creative position. I mean, he's thrown a few curveballs at us in the last few weeks, and I think he'll do it again on Saturday. I think Broja will start again. I think he's got to lay a marker down and say to Broja, you're going to get 4 or 5 games. Let's see where it goes. If Broja's, I mean, I was unfortunate not enough to see the game last week, and I was working, so I haven't seen the game. But by all accounts, Broja was okay. Well, let's give him a few run of games. Let's give him a run of games and see what he does. Because we're in that situation now where we're rolling dice whatever we do.
My feeling on the fullbacks thing, I don't know if you agree with this, Woody, but I just think if you've got quite a lot of changes to make anyway with suspensions and injuries, then just keep it simple and bring a right back in at right back and a left back in at left back, and then do your experimenting at the other end of the field. So, I'd bring in Hartman back into the side, even though he hasn't been playing well. Maybe being dropped gives him a kick up the arse.
Yeah.
And at right back, if Son is ready to go, then he comes in at right back. Because we haven't seen him do anything drastically wrong. He gave away that penalty in one game, didn't he? But he's a right back. He's a recognised right back. What do you reckon?
No, I think you're absolutely spot on there. I can't really fault your analysis there. Why complicate other parts of the match day experience and the side, etc. By playing around with the back when you're going to have to make other changes. So it just seems like common sense, doesn't it? Really, as much as anything.
And Marcus Edwards, right? Chris brought it up there. It would be a popular move, wouldn't it, to give Marcus Edwards a start? I think there'd be a bit of a cheer when the team was read out. When Marcus Edwards' name was in the starting lineup, would you do it, would he?
Oh, yes. Yeah, and I think it's a good game, arguably, for him to come in. It's not like Fulham are are going to be really snapping at his heels. They like to play their football. They're a little bit, like we said, a little bit fragile. Might be a good time for him to come in and weave a little bit of magic, and they'll get behind him. So I can see it's a plus positive, and I can imagine that him and Breuer and whoever plays out on the left and what have you, it could be quite entertaining if they were to gel. So I'd quite like to see him, and I'd like to see him linking up with Breuer as well. Bring it on.
You'd like to think we'd be on the front foot a little bit more, and that lends itself more to putting Edwards in and giving him his leash and saying, off you go, son.
Let him
give it your best shot. Because, as I say, he's rolling dice anyway. He might as well roll it and try and put some players in that the fans can get behind straight away and almost try and get the atmosphere going straight away, and that can kick the players into life.
What would your front three be then, Chris?
It's a conundrum, isn't it? Because if he plays the three of we'll call it the five at the back, the three centre mids that we all know who probably will and should start. You could play Edwards off Breuer then, and to me that would be a natural thing for. I'd say if Son plays the wing back, it's a natural thing for Son to get forward. It's a natural thing for Hartman to get forward. If Brun Larsen plays as left wing back, it's a natural thing for him to get forward. And I'd like to just. Fulham are a very good technical side, and I think Edwards in that sort of company would like to. I'd like to think he'd be saying, "Well, I've got a bit of that as well. I can do, what Harry Wilson did last week for his goal against Palace, and show the Premier League what he's all about." You can't be bringing him on. I mean, with a minute to go like he did at Newcastle last week, and he's still on. He creates what should have been the equaliser. But what's he supposed to do in a couple of minutes? At least if he's not going to start, give him the last half hour or something like that.
And there's no Hannibal, so there's not. And Chowner's been so poor of late in terms of form, Daz, that there's not really much competition there for that right side unless you play JBL there, really.
No, and I'm like you. I think Chowner's probably ready for a sit down, as we thought Anthony was ready for a sit down. And lo and behold, he comes back in after one game. It wouldn't surprise me to see Anthony drop out again and play Foster out on the left. It just come back to it. We just need. Well, we lack creativity, don't we? We know that. But the creative players we have, we can't then have them sat on the bench. We have to get them on the pitch because we need goals. Because at the minute we can't keep them out at one end. So we need 2/3 every game to win a game. And we ain't winning that with two forward-thinking players on the pitch. So, I mean, it is a conundrum for him. It is a conundrum until we get to January, but we all know they're going to have to do something in January. They can't just lie there and accept their fate in January. They're going to have to sign a striker stroke creative player in January. Until then, we're limping along and just, as we said, shifting deck chairs around on the Titanic a little bit.
The other thing is that Fleming, we all seem to ignore, he's putting ball in net.
He's scoring. Yeah, a few penalties, but yeah. Yeah.
He's scored in his last 4 away games in the Premier League, which is it's no mean feat. It's never been done by a Burnley player in the Premier League. So he's feeling awfully hard done by not to be in that starting lineup.
And he'd be adventurous. But what he could do, he could play Breuer. He could play Fleming off him and Foster left, and play 2 of the central midfielders rather than 3. Because he has been known to drop Ogachukwu, hasn't he? He's definitely going to probably play. He's going to play Cullen and one other at least. So that's an option. Play 2 central midfielders. We're going to have more of the ball, you would think, on Saturday. So let's get bodies on the pitch that can get it up the pitch.
Woody, what are you looking at in terms of the forward players? Because that's a good shout on Fleming. I mean, we talk about wanting to see Breuer and give him a chance, but has Fleming not earned that spot?
I mean, we're very good at this, aren't we, as Burnley fans? Kind of ignoring the fact that the guy who's like bagged 4 away from home, we'd probably drop. It's simply ridiculous, whilst also complaining that we don't have enough up top. So it's like, I mean, I've literally no idea what he's going to go with, because he has been he has been juggling a little bit and being a little bit of a magician in his thinking, our Scott, hasn't he? So it really could be anything. I mean, I think JBL has had a couple of good performances. I think Breuer's done enough. Fleming, obviously. And I'd definitely, like we've said, give Edwards more game time, whether that means he starts or he has a longer period of time than just 45 seconds or a minute or whatever it was, So, yeah.
We've got a former Claret likely to be lining up against us, of course, as well, Chris. Sander Berge. He was only with us for a season, but he made quite an impression during that one season, didn't he? One of the few sort of bright sparks of that miserable Vincent Kompany Premier League season. How do you recall him, and how do you think he'll get a decent reception?
Absolutely. Well, yeah, to an extent. Like I say, he's only here for 12 months, but he was one of those those few that came in that that summer that you could hang your hat on every week. He did make mistakes. He gave away the ball for the opening goal at Old Trafford when we drew one apiece, but on the whole, he was fabulous. He's an elegant footballer. He's gliding forward, connected defence with attack. He's one of those. He could play a deep line role, which we used him. He could play off the front. Deceptively powerful. I thought he was a super player, and he's gone on and made himself, one of the first names on the team sheet at Fulham in his second season there. Spoke very well about Burnley as well. I'm just reading before we came on. For a year here, he felt he certainly developed, as you'd like to think he would under Vincent and Craig Bellamy. Two progressive coaches, no matter what we think of what happened in the Premier League season. But, he was a hugely impressive signing. We made a few quid on him. Like to think we could have made a bit more. Man United were sniffing at one stage, weren't they? But but he made a big impression.
Daz, when you look at that league table now, and obviously Wolves adrift at the bottom, then it's us and West Ham, Forest, Leeds, Fulham, Brentford, Bournemouth, and then at 12th you've got Newcastle. You sort of think that's the cut-off point there now, isn't it, really? You can't see Newcastle getting involved in it at the bottom at all. So, sort of from Bournemouth down, we've got these two games now against Fulham and Bournemouth. I mean, there is a chance to sort of go into Christmas with the right results, out of the bottom three, and giving ourselves a chance that when we get into the January transfer window, we've got something to play with. But these two games are absolutely crucial now, aren't they?
Well, we saw what back-to-back wins did for us early in the season. It just provides a bit of a springboard, doesn't it? And if you can do that, the likelihood is we'll be on the verge of being out of the bottom three. Because when you're down at the bottom, you're not picking points up. So if you pick 6 points from 2 games, you're going to gain immense ground on those around you. I still think the bottom 5 are the bottom 5. I think we can bring Fulham back into it to an extent if we beat them on Saturday. I still think the bottom 5 are the bottom 5. Leeds, Forest, West Ham, Burnley, Wolves. And when you look at that, you'd think Leeds are battling away at the minute. They're picking points up. Forest are a bit wishy-washy. I saw them last week at Everton. They were really poor. But they've got a lot of injured players to come back yet. So I still think they might be all right. I've thought all along we're not good enough, and we're not good enough. But give ourselves a fighting chance. Get yourself, I think Justin's mentioned this a few times, keep yourself in it at January. At least then you can try and do something with your squad. We don't know what funds are available, but back-to-back wins would be immense. A tough task at Bournemouth. It's not an easy task, but we've been there and won before. If you win this weekend, the buoyancy in the squad, the belief floods back in, and you never know, do you? We've got to go at it. We've got to go at these games to try and win them. I don't think points anymore really are probably going to cut the mustard. Certainly for the next month or two, we need to try and get some points on the board. You're better off winning one and losing one, aren't you, than drawing one.
Yeah.
Drawing two. So go for the wins.
Yeah, big game, counts a lot, and we hope that when we come back to talk to you on the Rapid Reaction on Saturday, we'll have 3 points to celebrate, but let's see how it all goes. Until then, up the Clarets.